Oh. Oh. Oh.
Already taking place. So, with that as a backdrop, the actual ground invasion will be
Oh.
multi-pronged from the north and from elements even into the east. And we should expect some kind of amphibious or some elements coming from the sea. And the attacks that will go into Gaza City will be very, very tough fighting. It's an urban environment. Urban fights are always tough. Hamas has had some time to prepare. Booby traps can be expected all throughout, street by street, block by block, building by building. There'll be some tough fighting. There'll be casualties on both sides. And with all that, there will be civilians who will be caught in the crossfire. Well, Israel has warned Gaza civilians to leave the northern Gaza. Some are complying. Others may want to comply but are being stopped by Hamas. But there will be civilians in that crossfire, probably for sure, as this initial ground attack occurs.
They've said, the Israelis have said the stated goal is to crush Hamas. But again, what does that mean in terms of a ground incursion? Does that mean to take and hold territory? Does that mean lightning strikes in and out? Do they have specific goals once they roll over that border?
Of course, they probably have multiple objectives. Not dissimilar to ISIS, Hamas has got to be eradicated. I know their political element also, as a part of Gaza, many of them have been elected to office by the people, but Hamas as a terrorist organization must be destroyed. And so to do that, you've got to go where they are. And where they are is in the middle of Gaza City, amongst the people. So it'll be a very block by block kind of operation. There will be some precision strikes, but there will also be some tough fighting just to root out Hamas. And then the tough thing is that old pottery barn rule that Colin Powell talked about, and that is once you break it, you own it. So then Israel must work to, well, what's the next government look like? What does post-Hamas Gaza Strip look like? And that's what Israel must think through.
I got to let you go in just a second, but this second U.S. carrier group is headed to the Mediterranean. Part of the goal there is to send a message to others, including Hezbollah and Iran, not to get involved. But why a second group? What message does a second group send that the first, the USS Gerald Ford, didn't already send?
Well, John, in many ways, it's more than just a message. It gives the U.S. options from everything from evacuation of American citizens to making sure that Syria, others, Iran, are placed in check, that they know that there's a U.S. presence, a large U.S. presence just off of their coast. Also to Hezbollah, even though Israel has not asked for any help against Hezbollah. So it gives the U.S. options depending on the situation.
Retired U.S. Army Major General Dana Petard, thank you for being with us tonight. Appreciate your insight.
Thank you, John.
So there are concerns that the Israel-Hamas conflict could spread beyond the Middle East. There have been protests in cities around the world. Today in Paris, the Louvre closed its doors unexpectedly because of what they call security reasons. Friday, France raised a security alert to the highest level possible. France is home to Europe's largest Jewish population. It also has the largest Muslim population in Western Europe. CNN's Melissa Bell standing by in Paris. What's been going on there, Melissa?
Well, what we've seen over the course of the last week was heightened security around Jewish schools, John's synagogues as well. But it was the horrific attack on Friday in northern France, where a young man went on the rampage in his former school, killing his former teacher and wounding 2 other members of staff. That led to a further heightening of security. Patrols also on the streets of France now to show how seriously the security is being taken, even as this rise in anti-Semitic acts and speech has been noted not just here in France, but across Europe. Far from the front lines of the Israel-Hamas war, many European Jews say they're not just feeling the pain of what's happening there, but also fearing the potential ramifications much closer to home. In France, at the Great Synagogue in Marseille, a prayer is held for the people of Israel. It's a fervent prayer, after reports of anti-Semitic incidents in parts of Europe, after Hamas launched its assault on Israel more than a week ago, and Israel's subsequent bombardment of Gaza.
First of all, it's important to be present whenever the Jewish people are in danger. Unfortunately, we're used to this kind of gathering, this kind of prayer. We're tired of it all. Nevertheless, we have to respond in unity.
France is home to Europe's largest Jewish population, as well as the largest Muslim population in Western Europe. French President Emmanuel Macron has urged his citizens to remain united, though French police used water cannon and tear gas to break up a recent rally in support of the Palestinian people, which had been banned by French officials, citing concerns about public order. But there are fears of further unrest in France. 10,000 police officers have been deployed to protect synagogues and Jewish schools. And on Friday, France raised its security alert to the highest level after a knife attack at a school the French Interior Minister says was linked to the conflict between Israel and Hamas. The UK is also stepping up security after reports of increased anti-Semitic incidents. The Community Security Trust, a British non-profit organisation that monitors anti-Semitism, says the number of incidents reported to them in the past week has increased by more than 300% compared to the same period last year. Tensions at times spilling out onto the streets of London, where flyers of Israelis reportedly kidnapped by Hamas were torn down.
This is for Palestine. They're not mutually exclusive, it's children. It's children, it's innocent people. Okay, what about the children in Palestine?
Germany, meanwhile, says it has a zero-tolerance policy towards anti-Semitic acts and will ban all activities supporting Hamas, which is on the EU's list of terror groups. German officials say they can do no less.
Protecting Jewish life in Germany is part of the identity of our democracy. The security of Jews in Germany is our democracy at its core. Only if our Jewish citizens live in peace and security can our country as a whole do so.
And yet, John, for all the precautions being taken here on the European continent, there has been this rise in anti-Semitic acts and speech. In fact, the Anti-Defamation League says that its data suggests a very clear link between what's happening on the ground and the fact that it says extremists here in Europe feel emboldened to make threats or carry out attacks against Jewish people. John.
A concerning development, to say the least. Melissa Bell, thank you very much. We're going to go back to Israel Live in just a moment. Also ahead, a Republican member of Congress joins me as her party struggles to find a new Speaker of the House. Tonight, Israeli families are desperate for the safe return of loved ones taken hostage by Hamas. CNN has spoken to many anguished family members throughout the week, each with just a horrifying story. This evening, Anderson Cooper spoke with Dr. Adva Gutman, sharing her story of her beloved sister Tamar Gutman, who was at the Supernova Music Festival last Saturday when the terrorists struck, and she is now believed to be a hostage in Gaza.
At the beginning, we were starting looking for her, and because I'm a doctor, I was talking to every hospital in Israel and to all my friends. And when I saw that it's not enough, I went to the hospitals. I went to Soroka, that is the main hospital that came, all the wounded came in, and I just went from patient to patient and asked if they saw her and if they know where she is.
That's one of the things. There's so little information that, I mean, it's up to families in the last week to really go around and just talk to as many people and look at awful videos looking for people.
Yeah, I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
My husband did it for me because I saw one video and...
People are looking literally at jihadist videos to see if they can find her life.
It was so hard to watch. I couldn't. Yeah, it's sickening.
You talked to Adva when she was at the festival for about an hour on the phone. The attack started at 6:30. I think you were saying you talked to her until about 7:30?
7:30, yeah. We woke up to an alarm, missile alarm, and we went to the safe room in our house. And then the first thing that I thought about is to send her a message on WhatsApp. What's going on with you? Are you going home? And she said that she cannot go home because there are terror attacks on the road. And they told everybody at the festival to stay in place. Yeah. And they told her, okay, but you have to check where you're going. You have to open a map in your phone and see where you are and where you can go if the terror come towards the festival.
We now know that Hamas attacked from the west and the north and the south. And your sister, you believe, was able to get into a vehicle and drive a little bit, but that's where the last you heard.
Yeah, that was the last we heard of her, and her phone was found near the road, so we believe that she probably went out of the car and the phone fell down, and since then we don't know what happened. She actually wrote a message that we didn't get.
She wasn't able to send. What did it say?
She said that she's heading home.
What do you want people to know? What's Tamar like? She was studying to be a lawyer. She is.
Yeah, she started. It's her second year in law school. She actually was a very caring person. She was the family.
She was the family caregiver.
Yeah, caregiver. She always thought about others. Day before the festival happened, it was a holiday in Israel, and my mother and two sisters were on board, and she was angry about them because she said, you left father alone, and she went to my father and
Sunrise about 45 minutes from now. Israel is promising that a new phase in its war on Hamas is coming. It is likely it will be a ground operation. Troops have been amassing for days now near the Gaza border. Israel hit Gaza from the air again on Saturday. Officials say a Hamas commander who played a key part in last Saturday's attack was killed. We are closely watching the evacuation of northern Gaza. The IDF has told more than 1 million people to head south. UN officials warn that such a large-scale evacuation could lead to a humanitarian disaster. There's also an important development tonight from the Pentagon. A second U.S. carrier strike group led by the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower is sailing toward the Mediterranean. This is designed to show support to Israel and to send a message to Iran and its proxies, including Hezbollah and Lebanon, not to get involved. The State Department tonight says the number of U.S. citizens killed in the attacks has climbed to 29. 15 Americans are still unaccounted for. CNN's Oren Lieberman has live at the Pentagon. Oren, you've been standing by there all night. The latest news is this second carrier strike group headed toward the Mediterranean. Why?
John, it's a significant development because it's not all that often you see two U.S. Aircraft carrier strike groups operating in the same region, but that's exactly what we'll see here in the coming days. The USS Gerald R. Ford and its strike group, which consists of cruisers and destroyers, is already in the Eastern Med and arrived earlier this week. Meanwhile, the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower carrier strike group left the east coast of the U.S. today and should get there in a couple of weeks. So it's a major statement. As you point out, the purpose of all of this essentially firepower and these warships is not to get involved with the fighting in Israel. Israel doesn't want that, and the U.S. doesn't want that. The purpose is to be part of making sure the fighting itself remains constrained to Gaza and to Israel and doesn't spill over Israel's borders into what could quickly become a regional escalation. In that sense, the recipient of this message sent by the strike group is one of deterrence directed at Iran and specifically Hezbollah in Lebanon, right on Israel's northern border. There has been some back and forth fire across that border, but it hasn't escalated beyond that and still and remains at essentially a contained level. The goal is to keep it there, John.
So, Oren, the Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, he obviously was in Israel. I think he's back in the United States now, but spoke again with his Israeli counterpart. What are you learning about that conversation?
They've now spoken 3 or 4 times, I believe, since the terror attack last Saturday. This call happened just as Austin was landing in the United States here. It's an important call because, first, it shows the continued U.S. backing and the Biden administration's backing for Israel. But part of this also deals with what we're seeing unfold in Gaza and the humanitarian crisis there. And Austin also addressed this. This is worth reading from a readout of the call. So first, the support. The Secretary underscored the United States' unwavering commitment to Israel's security. Then this. During the call, he discussed the importance of adhering to the law of war, including civilian protection obligations and addressing the worsening humanitarian crisis in Gaza. We'll keep an eye on these readouts because these two are expected to speak frequently. And this is one of the major efforts of the U.S., not only in pushing for humanitarian access, humanitarian corridors, and the avoidance of civilian casualties, but also essentially covering for Israel and helping support Israel as the accusations go that way.
Or I'm so glad you read from that official readout because they use very carefully chosen and specific language, and it is worth following if and how it changes over time. Oren Lieberman at the Pentagon, terrific work. Thank you. So Elliot Gotkin is helping us cover all the latest developments. He joins us now live from London. We've been talking about Israeli troops massing at the Gaza border. How close does a ground operation seem to be?
John, it seems that we're closer than ever. It's very much a question of when rather than if. And we've been discussing the potential for a ground invasion ever since Hamas launched this devastating and brutal terrorist attack on Israel that's killed more than 1,300 people just a week and a day ago. And of course, Israel's been striking from the air, from land and from sea. Since then, there was a brief incursion by Israeli troops as a kind of reconnaissance mission inside the Gaza Strip before the weekend. But clearly now we seem to be getting closer. Israel saying that it is soon going to be starting a significant military operation that is just waiting ready for civilians to get out of harm's way. We of course saw that evacuation order to people of Gaza City and the northern part of the Gaza Strip on Friday, which and people living there account for almost half of the Strip's 2 million or so people. We've seen people heading south despite Hamas's calls for them to stay and not pay any attention to Israel's warnings. But of course Israel telling them to move south to get out of harm's way. But we've seen also evidence that some of those people moving south have also been hit in some of those strikes by Israel. But of course there are many, many dangers laying ahead for a ground invasion, not just to the lives of Israeli soldiers. There's the potential for more of them to be kidnapped as well. Let's not forget that Hamas is holding more than 100 people from Israel and other foreign nationalities as well. That will very much complicate the situation. There's a danger for many more civilian casualties inside the Gaza Strip, and there are already more than 2,000 who have died so far. There's also danger for further escalation in the north. We've seen low-level, if you like, skirmishes, rockets being fired by militants from southern Lebanon, from the Iran-backed Hezbollah into Israel, and even from Syria. So there's danger for escalation, as we're hearing Oren talking about the US warships in the eastern Mediterranean, I suppose partly to try to dissuade any additional escalation there in the north. We've also seen rising violence in the Israeli-occupied West Bank as well, where more than 50 Palestinians have been killed so far. So there's very much a danger for escalation. There's a danger to Israeli soldiers, their lives, and for being kidnapped, and also, of course, dangers for the civilian population of Gaza too. John?
All right, Elliot Gotkin for us. Elliot, thanks for helping us understand what is happening as the world awaits Israel's seemingly imminent invasion of Gaza. Palestinian civilians are now scrambling to get out of the way. Many have moved south but are now stuck at the Rafah border crossing that is right on the border between Gaza and Egypt. That is the only crossing that Israel does not directly control. It's been closed for some time. It was closed Saturday, even though some Palestinian Americans said they were told it would be open. CNN spoke to a Philippine national who was stranded there all day with her family.
There were a lot of people. We're talking about more than 15 or 20 families that hold different passports, and everyone was calling the embassies, and they were telling them that they don't know if they're gonna cross today or not. The Egyptians said that they wanted the crossing to be for humanitarian cause and not only for evacuating foreigners. They said they told my in-laws that they have to stay in an area close to the Rafah crossing and not very far, because they are supposed to call them in any minute.
All right, Aaron Cohen joins us now. He's an Israel Special Operations veteran and founder of Cherry's Counter-Terror School. Aaron, thank you so much for being with us. This ground incursion feels imminent at this point. When Israeli troops do cross that border into Gaza, what will they face?
Well, what they're going to face is urban warfare, first and foremost. That is the modus operandi. This is the vacuum they're getting sucked into. And what we're looking at is asymmetrical warfare. We're talking about a lot of 90-degree angles. That's the type of warfare we're essentially walking into. We're looking at booby-trapped rooms. We're looking at wiring. We're looking at debt cord. Hamas is going to use the thousands of Hamas terrorists who are in there are going to use every booby trap and trick in the playbook to kill as many Israeli soldiers as possible. But there's two fronts that are permeating right now. You've got the counteroffensive, which is being prepared right now. We have mass softening of Gaza in order to open up lanes for IDF troops to be able to move in there. Those troops will be from the Givati Brigade, which is the elite infantry brigade attached to the Southern Command of Israel. There's a special operations component within that brigade. Very, very good. You've got Israeli SEALs off the coast, topography, gathering intelligence. That's the Shayetet Shalosh Esrei, also very active during the initial response. I want to say this, all the special operations units in Israel were the first responders out the south of Israel. And we're not talking about a single shooter Columbine. We're talking about thousands of armed terrorists coming in. And it was a violent battle down there, and to be able to clear those pockets out. So you've got the infantry, the artillery, you've got, you potentially have special operations assets from Israel's Air Force Commando Unit, combat controllers. They're the ones who are making sure that civilians aren't getting hit by those missiles, John, coming out of the Israeli F-15s and the Israeli F-35s. You know, we don't target civilians, and I don't need to sell this. Everybody's seen what's happened here with this terror group. We're very careful about how we conduct operations, high degree of selectivity, and right now we're in the prep phase. We're gathering intelligence, our intelligence assets, the Mossad, the Shin Bet agency, listening to thousands of phone calls all over the world, trying to figure out how we're going to get these hostages, get that information back to command so that we can get the hostages in conjunction with making that incursion or beginning to move into Gaza. Look, Gaza is essentially a pressure cooker right now, which is what Israel's turning it into. The electricity, the lights, everything getting shut off is to tire out Hamas. But there's two things happening. Those hostages are our main concern. We want to preserve that life and bring those grandparents and babies back to Israel. So right now, as we speak, I wouldn't be surprised if the General Staff Reconnaissance Unit, which is Bibi Netanyahu's old unit, is one of the finest hostage rescue units in the world. The Brits may have invented hostage rescue, John, but Israel perfected the playbook. I'll take you back to 1972. That Seret Matkal unit, the General Staff Unit, performed the first aircraft takedown ever in the history of terrorism, performing a hostage rescue. They did it again June 6th. 1976, they brought back 103 Israelis and other nationalities back to Israel, being held by Black September. Israel is a master at the craft of hostage rescue. The tricky part here, and where it gets technical, is that hostage rescue requires incredibly high levels of intelligence. So while the incursion is being prepped, the reconnaissance, the General Staff Reconnaissance Unit and the Israeli National Police Unit, or Counter-Terrorist Unit, the Yamam, the Yechidah Miyuchedet Mishtartit, are probably training on scenarios right now so that they step in the exact same places when they get into Gaza, in those tunnels and in those buildings. And it's going to happen at multiple structures, John, at the same time, and it's going to be fast. The shots have to be straight. We've got hostages, we've got innocents. That's what these guys do. So all of this is being coagulated together, and it'll be interesting to see how Israel does this, but I can tell you this. Israel's not junior varsity. This is the first time they've been attacked on multiple fronts. 48, 56, 67, 73 when Golda stepped down. There was an intel failure there. And you know what? She stepped down, but Israel can't, like Golda said, we can't, turn over every stone. We can't protect every inch of that wall. But when Israel starts to knock the rust off, which they do every 10 years, that's when the creativeness of the Israeli people, these are very sharp people. And it's also a warrior culture. And the meat of this operation is going to be by the 300,000 reservists that were brought in. Once that rust is knocked off, I think you're going to see some magic here. So stand by. I think things are going to get very interesting, and I think you're going to see Israel at its finest.
Well, the operation appears to be in its very early stages, with much more poised to happen very soon. Aaron Cohen, thank you so much for lending your thoughts.
Appreciate you.
Civilians in northern Gaza are rushing to evacuate south as Israel signals its strikes against Hamas will escalate. Many, though, are afraid to leave their homes after the bombing of a road identified as a safe route. We'll talk about that ahead.
I'm aware of the head because I have a brain injury.
You have a brain injury?
Yeah.
History? Okay.
Yeah. But I don't know why the abdominal.
You're uncertain about the stomach pain. Okay. Do you live by yourself, Paul?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you get any assistance? Does anyone help you, Paul?
No.
No. You live independently?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any new concerns for your breathing? Are you breathing okay?
Shallow.
Sorry?
Shallow.
Are we on speakerphone? I'm finding it hard to hear you.
Breathing is shallow.
Breathing is shallow. Okay, so you're finding that you're having breathing problems right now? This is new and different for you?
Not really, just abdominal pain and head pain.
The pain is causing you some breathing concerns?
Not really.
No? Okay. But do you feel like it's hard to talk? Are you having a hard time getting air right now?
Not getting air, it's just hard to talk because of all the pain.
It's hard to talk because of the pain. Okay. And so on a pain scale of 0 to 10, 0 being no pain and 10 being the worst, how bad is your pain right now?
10.
A 10. Okay. Did the pain just get bad in the last few hours, or has it been bad for some time?
It's been bad all day. I've been trying to tame it.
Bad all day? Okay. And is the pain worse to the stomach right now, or is it your head?
Both.
Both? Do you think you can walk and stand?
I can, but I'm choosing to lie down.
Okay. Is this related to any injury? Did you hurt your stomach? Did you fall recently today?
No,
No recent injury?
I was caught on the head January 15th, 2021.
So the brain injury was back in 2021?
Yeah.
Okay. So again, is this head pain new and different, or has this been an ongoing issue for you?
Ongoing issue.
Okay, so the head pain is an ongoing issue. What about the stomach pain? Is that new and different for you today?
Yeah.
Okay. And so the stomach pain just started today, or was it there yesterday?
Yesterday.
Okay.
And somewhat the day before.
Okay. I think you mentioned maybe the past 4 to 5 days it's been there?
Head pain,
Is
yeah.
that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So is the pain worsening today? Staying the same, or is it better?
Worsening tonight.
It's been worsening tonight.
Oh. Oh. Oh.
Is the pain in one area or all over the stomach?
All over the stomach.
All over the stomach, okay. Have you had any problems with peeing or pooping recently?
No.
No? Okay. The last time you went to the washroom to pee or poo was how long ago?
Today.
Sorry?
Today.
Today? What time today did you pee or poo?
Oh. Afternoon.
Sorry?
Afternoon.
This afternoon? Last urinated this afternoon. And was that normal?
Yeah.
Okay. And your poo? Was that normal too?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you had any surgeries or injuries to the stomach?
Diverticulitis.
You have a history with diverticulitis? Okay. Do you think the pain right now is related to that?
I don't know.
Sorry?
I don't know.
You don't know. Okay. All right. So were you thinking of seeking more care? Were you considering the hospital today?
No. I'm just hoping to go through it myself.
Sorry?
I'm hoping to manage myself.
Yeah, well, I think generally, of course, if the pain is worsening and it's really this bad, 10 out of 10, likely I'm going to recommend more care, right? What I want to know right now is what, Sorry?
I didn't say anything.
Okay, sorry, I thought you said something. What I want to make sure is that there's no obvious 911 symptom, right? Do you think you're having any signs of a heart attack right now?
No.
No, okay. Do you feel like you're not safe? Are you shocky? This means you're dizzy, weak, confused, you're going to pass out.
Not yet.
Okay, are you dehydrated?
I do feel thirsty and I keep drinking.
Okay, would you say you're just mildly dehydrated, or is there more concern here?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, you did say that you're still peeing, so this is reassuring. Have you had any other fluid losses like vomiting, diarrhea, heavy sweating? Have you been able to drink any fluid at all today?
Yeah.
You've been drinking fluid?
Yeah.
Okay, and any fluid losses?
I don't know what that means.
So like vomiting, diarrhea?
No.
No. Okay, heavy sweating?
A little bit.
So would you say maybe just mild dehydration then?
Yeah.
Can you drink more fluid? Are you able to drink more fluid?
Yeah, I'll drink some right now. Oh. Oh. Oh.
When we say
Oh.
are you okay there?
Yeah, it's just a pain.
Okay. So when we describe severe pain, this means it's so bad you can't even stand it for a few hours, you can't sleep, you can't do anything but focus on the pain. Is that your description right now?
Somewhat.
Yeah, okay. And you said no injury. Is that right?
I don't.
No injury to the stomach. Is that right?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, alright. Yeah, I think what I'll recommend is that you just be careful, right? If you're having this much pain, then I would say seek care right away. I think going to the hospital is probably the safest plan for you.
Usually going to the hospital is a horror show. They don't see you. You're waiting. You're suffering. I'd rather be here.
Well, again, it's probably not going to improve on its own, right? As you're aware, right? It
I
sounds
don't know.
like you've been suffering for some time already. You said the past 4 to 5 days.
Yeah.
So if it's this bad, then I would say it's just a better plan to go in, right? That's as much as I can offer you right now, right?
Okay. Maybe I'll think about it tomorrow during the day.
Yeah, certainly if you think that there's additional concerns, if you're not safe to move around, right? You have a high fever, right? You become more confused, right? Then of course it becomes more of an emergency, 911, right?
Mm-hmm.
At this point though, it does sound like if you're describing this severity of pain, you should seek care right away, okay?
Okay.
Long, and it sounds like you're not anticipating waiting like that for long.
That's right. I can't say exactly how long, but what I can tell you is that across the board in Israel, everyone, wall to wall, are eager to hit back. I've been visiting various units. I myself was a combat soldier, and the enrollment rates, the enlisting rates are about 130%, which means people are ready.
Israel is eager to hit back Hamas.
Insisting to join and fight because Israel took a huge hit.
Israel is eager to hit back Hamas.
Our spirit is strong, and we're going to hit back.
And you talk about
Israel is eager to hit back Hamas.
My reserves, I came back in, so they are
I
all.
also wanted to do it, but they didn't let me because I'm a prime minister, former prime minister.
Well, thousands of people are on the move in Gaza after Israel warned them to evacuate south. One international refugee official says they're not safe if they heed the warning. We'll talk to her about the situation on the ground